What's good, everyone? We're back. It's NFL Guru here, and I just want to point something out. This is gonna be our power rankings for this week. Week 1 was crazy. It always is. We're gonna have to readjust our rankings. Last week I feel like we hit on some teams, we missed on some teams. I even mentioned a team like the Vikings, who I was really high on. So we were right about some things, wrong about some things. We're gonna readjust our rankings without trying. We're gonna try not to overreact too much. It was week 1. But I just want to point something out before we get into the video. This was the thumbnail for the video last week when I just made a little quick thumbnail and put some random teams in random places. That Seahawks pick, that Bills pick looks really solid up there. You know what I mean? This beta tier with the Cowboys, I mean, it makes a lot of sense, guys. Garbage with the Rams, that's neither here nor there. We're going to get into the video real quick, reset these. Before we get into it, please leave a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel. It means a lot. We're going to try to get some more subscribers so we can eventually do some live Q&As, those type of things. Let's get right on into it. You know what I mean? We're going to go add a sound effect. It's going to be the New York Jets. This team actually competed decently against the Baltimore Ravens. They still lost. Lamar Jackson threw about 3 touchdowns on them. But they look decent. Sauce Gardner was kind of locking up. I believe he only gave up like one reception, maybe one catch. But this team looks a little more sturdy than years past. I think that they could work their way from the 32nd slot on this power rankings, maybe get up to like 28 or so by the end of the year. Maybe when Zach Wilson's back, they'll have more potential. But they got some work to do for sure. Below them, we're gonna go ahead and throw the Carolina Panthers. What on earth? What on earth was this? The offense wasn't even, the offense was non-existent in this game. The defense was decent, but they were playing the Browns led by Jacoby Brissett. Like, there's just a lot of work that needs to be done with the Carolina Panthers. Baker needs to play better than he did, although he didn't play too awful, I guess. But yeah, no, the 31st slot is for the Carolina Panthers in bottom tier. Above them is a team that actually almost defeated the New Orleans Saints, which would have been a crazy upset in my opinion. The Atlanta Falcons. This team competed pretty well, I believe. They have some work to do as well. The offense looked pretty solid. Marcus Mariota didn't look that bad. Like, he actually showed some spurts of good plays, and they just got to get Kyle Pitts involved more. I know he had, Lattimore on him the whole game. It was a tough matchup. But ultimately, they blew the lead. I mean, the Falcons blew the lead, guys. Who would have suspected this? They had like a 26-10 lead. Second half, the Saints come marching in, and they take over the dome, So, congrats to the Saints on winning that one. And keeping Atlanta in bottom tier where they belong for now. Next up is going to be the Houston Texans. I'm not going to overreact, but this team looked pretty good. This team looked pretty good in week 1. They competed well against the Indianapolis Colts, and they are 0-1. They had a draw for the first week of the season. 5 quarters of football played, no winner. The offense looked okay. We saw O.J. Howard with 2 touchdowns, actually. Davis Mills looked pretty good. He's a good guy, He's underrated, I believe. It's hard to say that because when you look on social media, all you see is Davis Mills praise, but the Colts just look bad. I mean, Houston had a good defense. They played defensive ball, and hey, that with their head coach, that's how they want to play football. So congrats to them. Next up, this is kind of where it gets tricky for me because I think some of these teams shouldn't even be in this bottom tier. But we're gonna go with the Jacksonville Jaguars for now. They got to stay in bottom tier for now. I think this team will work their way out of it. They'll work their way out of the purgatory down here, and they'll be almost there. They got to get that leadership from Trevor Lawrence that he's known for. We got to get that going. But Trevor with a good coach this year, pretty much a clean slate for this offense. I actually compared this offense to last year's Arizona Cardinals before the season, and it's showing to be that way. ETN getting the passing down work. James Robinson still looking great, just like James Conner. And then you got Christian Kirk out there, just like the Cardinals had last year, and he had like 12 targets or some crazy stuff like that. And then Zay Jones had a bunch of targets. This team showed glimpses. I'm not even gonna lie on offense. The defense got shredded by the Commanders, but it is what it is. Next up, we're gonna go with the New England Patriots. Yes, they are in bottom tier. Maybe next year. That offense looked dreadful. Who's their offensive coordinator? Is it Joe Judge or is it Matt Patricia? Which one is it, guys? Which one is it? We have no clue. And it looked like one of them was the offensive coordinator. They don't have it figured out on offense. Defense played okay. Miami's a tough, tricky offense to work around, so the defense did good. They were capable, but the offense is so bad until they show glimpses. You know, Mac Jones dealing with back spasms and stuff now. So yeah, they're going to be in the bottom tier. And another team that I think almost deserves to be in bottom tier. Maybe they do go in bottom tier. Oh, this is tricky. No, we'll go Detroit at the almost there tier. I actually think this offense looked incredible. And their defense looked decent. I know they got shredded. I know they gave up 38 points. Defense didn't look decent. Jeff Okudah looked good. And when he's healthy, he's an animal. We saw it in college. I know he got injured his rookie season, but Jeff Okudah looked good. The D-line is sturdy. The offensive line on this team is great, and the offense is potent with DeAndre Swift out there running rampant and Jared Goff hitting those checkdowns, baby. No, Jared Goff mixed the ball around well. Offensive-minded team for sure, and they can tighten some things up on defense. They can win some games. They're going to be in close games all year just because shootout games, Detroit style. Let's go. Next up, we're going to go with the Chicago Bears, a team that I had all the way at the bottom, but they went out there and beat the San Francisco 49ers. Now, I don't want to overreact and put them too high because that game was such a, X-factor game with the rain and just the horrible weather. It was like a monsoon there. But they ended up winning. They beat the San Francisco 49ers. That's an impressive win to me. And I believe that they should not be in bottom tier after that. So we're gonna put them up here, and congrats to the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields looked pretty good. He had a couple touchdown passes in that bad weather. He looked better than Trey Lance in my opinion. So this team has some potential. I still think they get last in the NFC North. No, I don't. Yes, I do. I think the Lions, they will pass them. The Lions will pass the Bears on this tier list in a couple weeks. Just give it time, folks. We got to let it develop. Next up, a team that deserves to be down here. Okay? I don't want to hear anything. This team deserves to be down here. It's the Dallas Cowboys. They just lost their franchise quarterback for at least 4 to 6 weeks, from what Jerry Jones is saying. So maybe 8 weeks. Who knows? They just lost their franchise quarterback. They're going to be playing with Cooper Rush in as the starter now. I don't have faith in this offense. The defense isn't good enough to carry this team to wins when the offense is just shredded to pieces. The receiver position is weak. The offensive line is horrible. The quarterback play is not going to be up to par now. This team deserves to be all the way down here. So next up, we're going to go the New York Giants, a team that actually, this is crazy, a crazy stat. The New York Giants have not had a winning record since 2016. They now have a 1-0 record, which is considered a winning record, folks. Give it up for the New York Giants. They did it. They did it on their home turf. I don't know if it was on their home turf. No, they didn't. They did it in Tennessee to make matters worse. And Saquon Barkley, feed the man the ball, and you will have success on offense. Keep the ball out of Daniel Jones' hands. Look, first of all, we got to talk about the head coach, day balls of steel. Went for it. It's a 21-20 game. They could kick the extra point, go to OT. No, Dayball says, we're going to go for 2. We're going to give it to our best player. We're going to give the ball to our best player. Saquon Barkley makes a move, sheds some tackles, gets into the end zone. Great job. New York Giants 1-0. I don't think their ceiling is that high, but I think this team could make a playoff potential tier at some point this season if things roll correctly for them. Next up, a team that falls way down, and I had a weird intuitive feeling about it. The Arizona Cardinals. Stay down here, dirty birds. What is this? Kyler Murray looks like he regressed 2 seasons back to his old ways. This offense was not clicking. I know they're missing some pieces, of course, like Rondale Moore, but Come on, guys. And then the defense just got shredded by the Chiefs. It was the Chiefs, so we can't take away too much from this team. But I don't have much faith in the Cardinals this year, man. I don't have much faith. They're going down here. Next up, we're going to go. And look, this is crazy that this team rose this high in week 1. And I said I wasn't going to overreact. I showed my cards in my first initial video. I said I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan. I was wearing the DK Metcalf jersey. They're going to go in the almost there tier to round out this tier. Maybe not. We might put another team here. But they just beat the Denver Broncos in a crazy game where Russ was coming back to Seattle for the first time since leaving the team. His first game since leaving the team. And the fans got involved. I feel like this is more of a Nathaniel Hackett blunder, personally, than a Seahawks like clean-cut win. But Geno Smith did his thing, and he balled out in the first half of this game. And then they carried that lead, and they won the game, man. They made some goal line stands. They're going to give up a ton of yards this year, but they're going to make some goal line stands and make games dirty. Pete Carroll can scheme around some certain things to keep this team in close games. Congrats to the Seahawks, man, on just starting 1-0. As little as that may be, congrats to them. With the Cleveland Browns, this team are they good? I don't know. Their defense looks sturdy always. They're going to have a good defense. They're going to play dirty football, running the ball with Nick Chubb. And when he's not in the game, you're going to run the ball with Kareem Hunt. You're going to sometimes throw it to Kareem Hunt. Jacoby Brissett ain't going to make a pass 30 yards down the field to anybody. They got to get their weapons involved, man. Donovan Peoples-Jones had like 11 targets. Let's get Amari Cooper some targets, I know teams are probably going to, focus on him in coverage, but ultimately, they won. I mean, they won week 1. I picked the Panthers to beat them. They did not. So, congrats to the Browns, proving me wrong. And the Browns' schedule is not that great early in the season. So, if they could get off to a good start, when Deshaun's back, who knows? Who knows? I know he hasn't played football in a long time. He might be rusty. He might not be much better than Brissett at this point. But just something to think about. Next up, in the playoff potential tier, we're going to go with the Washington Commanders. This team looked pretty good. They played the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know, I see it all over social media. It was the Jags, though. Yeah, well, guess who they play week 2? They played the Detroit Giants, who I have ranked 2 spots ahead of the Jaguars. This defense on Detroit is not that good. Washington, Carson Wentz, they're going to throw the ball, and they're going to, throw it to even their running back, Antonio Gibson, J.D. McKissick, Jahan Dotson. Curtis Samuel looked amazing. He had like 11 targets, a touchdown. Jahan Dotson, 2 touchdowns. Terry McLaurin only had 2 catches. He's going to get involved. Washington is going to look good this week. They could start 2-0, folks. Washington Commanders. Next up, we're going to go with the Tennessee Titans. This team lost to the New York Giants. And yes, I have them ranked above the Giants, guys. It is week 1. We got to give it some time. I'm not just basing these off of week 1. These are for the rest of the season, These are cumulative week after week, so we're going to readjust from last week, move the Titans down, move the Giants up, but ultimately I still think they're a better team than the Giants in the long term. I think they win more football games than the Giants. I'm more confident that this team doesn't win the division, but nobody in this division looked that good. Houston looked okay. Indy looked okay, but no team in this division really shined this week enough. They all showed glimpses, but it's going to be a competitive division, I believe, so not great, but they could make the playoffs due to circumstance. Next up, the Denver Broncos. Looking like probably the worst team in the division after week 1, but it's okay. That was an X-Factor game with Russ in Seattle with the crowd booing him and stuff, so hopefully that we'll see Russ return to form. They're going to get the receivers involved more. Nathaniel Hackett can't be doing outrageous stuff like that at the end of the game, kicking a 65-yard field goal with a minute left on the clock, So they got to figure some stuff out, of course, but they're going to be in the middle of the pack, kind of. Next up, we're going to go with the team that had an semi-impressive victory against the Cincinnati Bengals, the good old Pittsburgh Steelers. This team won week 1 in overtime against the Cincinnati Bengals, and kicking issues on the Bengals side led to the overtime in general. Pittsburgh's defense was really what carried them in this game, as you'd kind of expect. The offense didn't look that good. Najee Harris got banged up in the game, ended up leaving the game. Deontay Johnson made some good catches in overtime. But ultimately, Minka Fitzpatrick and TJ Watt were out there doing their thing. Minka Fitzpatrick is the reason this game even got to overtime, so congrats to the Steelers. Mike Tomlin wins football games, baby. Next up, we're going to go with the Indianapolis Colts. They're going to fall for me. I had them in the A tier up here in the contender tier. Yeah, they might be okay. Matt Ryan didn't look as great as I kind of expected, but he did, target his guy, Michael Pittman, as you expected. Jonathan Taylor had a ton of rushing yards, a ton of carries. He had like 30-something touches, I believe. So they just got to get the ball to their playmakers and play defensive football to win games. And next up, we're going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders. They lost week 1 to the Los Angeles Chargers, but it was a good game. I mean, Devontae Adams had like 17 targets. We got to spread the ball around more. I know, but he was open. I mean, you can't blame Derek Carr for that, but there were some silly turnovers in this game from Derek Carr. And they're going to, the Raiders are a solid team. I think that they have more hope. I have more hope for the Raiders than I do for the Broncos. And to round out the playoff potential tier, we're going to go with the New Orleans Saints, a team that almost lost to this team all the way at 30. Yes, but I was high on the Saints going into the year. I think Jameis, the more comfortable he gets coming off that knee injury last year, he'll start getting healthy. Michael Thomas will start getting healthy from the hamstring issue. Chris Olave will come along as a rookie guy. And Jarvis Landry looked good week 1. Now, there is issues with Kamara's ribs. We got to keep an eye on that. He hasn't been practicing much this week. It's not looking good. They just signed another running back. So, another depth piece. Could mean Kamara could miss time. Who knows? But the Saints, and they still have Taysom Hill as the gadget guy. And then a lot of playmakers on defense. But they play the Bucs this week. Going to be a tough matchup. And they do have the Bucs number in some ways, with Tom Brady. So keep an eye on that game. And we're going to go to the contenders tier. And yes, I am throwing the Miami Dolphins in the contenders tier, folks. I know it was the New England Patriots and we, bashed on their offense and all that. Yeah, true. But Miami's offense, it looked good. I mean, Tyreek Hill had a lot of targets. Jalen Waddle found the end zone. They weren't really efficient, with Chase Edmonds, but it's the Patriots defense. They're going to be sturdy up front. So this team looked good. Mike McDaniel looked like a good coach. Going for it on like 4th and 7 at one point and then getting it. Looks like a big brain play. Him and Dayball doing their thing, baby. But, yeah, the Dolphins look solid, I think. And their defense really balled out. I mean, geez, if you had them in fantasy, congrats. But, yeah, good job to the Dolphins. And a team that's falling for me, I had them in the top tier, is going to be the San Francisco 49ers. They lost to the Chicago Bears, guys. Man, but like I said, it was in like a monsoon game, so we can't take away too much from that game. After week 2, we'll know a lot more. If Trey Lance struggles in week 2, I don't think they look back at Jimmy G that soon, but man, you hear talks in the locker room of, according to sources, that Jimmy G is the guy that they trust. So keep an eye on the 49ers. They did lose Elijah Mitchell for 2 months, so Jeff Wilson's going to be stepping up. But I'm a little lower on this team than I was going into the year. I'm not going to overreact too much. I do think that game was so outrageous. We'll see a lot more this week from the 49ers. Next up, we're going to go with the Green Bay Packers, another team that fell. This is going to be the tier of teams that fall from this tier. The Green Bay Packers lost to the Minnesota Vikings, who I said last video, I had faith in the Vikings offense this season with the new coaching. And wow, I was right, but I didn't think they'd shred Green Bay's defense like this. A lot of that was Justin Jefferson, but Green Bay's offense did not look good. They didn't really get Aaron Jones going. They got A.J. Dillon going a little bit, but the receiving core had nothing going. I mean, Christian Watson dropped a wide open deep ball from Rodgers, and the game started spiraling from there. I do think this team's still going to be good. Their defense is going to correct the issues and be solid, and the receivers will come along as the year goes. Young guys, Allen Lazard wasn't playing, so don't want to overreact too much with the Packers. Next up is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. Like I said, this is the tier of teams that fell, other than the Dolphins, but the Bengals lose to the Steelers week 1. I actually picked the Steelers to win this game. Just as a division matchup, the Steelers have a gritty defense with some solid playmakers. I just had a feeling week 1, the Super Bowl hangover for the Bengals as well is a real thing. I had a feeling in this one, and it kind of went the way I expected. I hope T. Higgins can get back from the concussion. Next up, another team that, actually this team's rising. A team that's rising. The Philadelphia Eagles. Good football team. Good football team. Put up 38 points. Now, not against the most stout defense. They gave up 35 points. Some of that in garbage time. Some of them were big plays from DeAndre Swift, though. The Eagles, I have faith in the Eagles this year. I really do. They got to fix some things on defense, Don't be so obvious what you're doing on defense, Eagles are going to be a solid team. I think they win the NFC East handily. And, those are going to be some favorable matchups for them in the division. Their schedule's not that tough, man. The Eagles could have a really good record. Next up, another team that falls for my number 2 spot, actually. The Los Angeles Rams. This team's going to be fine. It was, they lost to arguably the best team in the NFL. So you can't take away too much, but there were things that kind of surprised us with Cam Akers, not really getting any role at all. It was all Darrell Henderson for the most part. So, and Allen Robinson, they got to get that guy involved. Coach McVay addressed this after the game. They had some turnovers on defense, but other than that, the Bills really moved the ball pretty easy on them. So the Rams they'll be okay. They're still really high in my rankings, and we're gonna go ahead and move up to the top tier. And yes, the Minnesota Vikings are in my top tier. I am very high on this team. I think they win the division, and then I believe they win the first round of the playoffs. They might not get a 1 seed, but I believe they win the NFC North, win the first round of the playoffs, and we'll see what this team can do. I'm pretty excited to see the Minnesota Vikings in action this season. I think that the way they're scheming with Justin Jefferson is really impressive. They're moving him around more. I have high hopes in the Vikings. I said it in the last video, and I still rated them kind of conservatively, but I knew there was a chance. I'm not doing that anymore. This is one of those gut ones. I'm going with that aggressive top tier for the Minnesota Vikings. And next is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. This team didn't look too great week 1, but J.K. Dobbins is looking good in practice this week from what we're hearing. So I think that when he's back, that kind of just makes this team complete with Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins back there together. And then, yeah, they got some weapons in the receiving core now. Devin Duvernay looked great week 1. Rashad Bateman made a deep ball play. Of course, he's the wide receiver 1 there. And then Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely will be out there, big bodies to throw the ball to. So, and then they always have a sturdy defense. So I think the Ravens will be a good team this year. And obviously I ranked them in top tier. So I think they're gonna be solid. And next up is gonna be the Los Angeles Chargers, baby. LA still running up here. Chargers play tonight. It's actually Thursday when I record this. So the Chargers will play the Chiefs, and that'll be a great game. I'm ranking the Chiefs higher for now, but obviously next week that's going to change. This is going to be a great Thursday night football game. But the Chargers beat the Raiders in week 1. They looked really good in that game. Justin Herbert really looked impressive. They did run the ball a lot, and Austin Eckler didn't get too many touches in this game. It was kind of strange, but this week they'll be playing without Keenan Allen, so hopefully they can still produce on offense. I have Joshua Palmer, stepping up and being that number 2 to Mike Williams, and even some Gerald Everett in there at times, I believe. So this team is just so good, and their defense is so stacked, and I just have high hopes for this team. I think that they can make a Super Bowl run. I really do. So next up, we're going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They defeated the Dallas Cowboys. It was kind of a lower scoring game. Chris Godwin actually got re-injured in that game, had a hamstring issue, so hopefully he's going to be okay. And then you see reports this week that the Bucks, wide receiving core, is all injured and not practicing. The injury reports: Mike Evans, Russell Gage, Julio Jones, Chris Godwin. All their guys are getting hurt. Leonard Fournette. Keep an eye on this, man. They can't afford to lose those playmakers. So you really got to hope for the best here in Tampa Bay. But they're so talented overall. Their overall team is one of the best in the league. Their defense is so solid. Their offense is so solid. I think everything's going to be okay. I really do. So Tampa Bay up here. And then number 2, we're going to go the Kansas City Chiefs. It should be no surprise that our number 1 team is the Buffalo Bills, which we can go ahead and throw them up here. But like I said, the Chiefs play tonight against the Chargers, so we'll really see who deserves to be in this top tier after tonight. I think it's a tough matchup for both teams, but the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs was on fire. Mahomes was out there to make a statement. 5 touchdown passes, over 300 yards. This guy's such a playmaker, such a superstar. And they got the running backs going. Pacheco got the garbage time work, of course, because it was a blowout against the Arizona Cardinals. We saw Clyde Edwards-Helaire get the receiving down work, even some goal line work, which was good to see from CEH. And then they spread the love a little bit to the receivers. So, and Travis Kelce, of course, going to have a big day. And then defensively, they look good as well. So the Chiefs at number 2. Number 1, the Buffalo Bills. This team looks so good. Juicy team. Great team. Love to see it. They defeated the Los Angeles Rams, the Super Bowl defending champions. Got dethroned week 1, opening night. Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen is such a stud. MVP favorite this season. Defense looking juicy with the turnovers of Matt Stafford. Just overall great performance from the Buffalo Bills. Gabe Davis caught the first touchdown of the season, just as you would expect the way they went out in the playoffs last year. That was such a weird circumstance with that playoff game because Josh Allen had the best playoff run we have seen recently. I mean, against the Patriots, just scoring every drive, and then against the Chiefs, just running them down the field, marching them in the 2-minute drills, catching Gabe Davis in the end zone 4 times. I mean, and then for it to end in overtime without them touching the ball was bittersweet. But I think this team's my favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. And I'm pretty confident in that. I'm pretty confident in these rankings. It's a lot easier to tell after week 1 how the season's actually going to be. Like, I moved the Bengals up by week 3 last year to like the A tier almost because I just had a feeling. And I started them in like bottom tier to start the year. So we learn a lot these first few weeks, and I'm feeling pretty confident in these rankings. So I think that'll be it. You know, if you disagree, agree, please leave a comment down below. I'll get back to you in the comments and let you know what I was thinking in certain situations, and I'm always down to hear feedback. So I do appreciate everyone. Hope y'all have a great day. Please leave a like on the video. Please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, I'm out. Deuces.